Long ago, in the heart of ancient India, there lived a king renowned throughout the land not only for his power and wealth, but for his wisdom and compassion. His name was King Aryan, and his reign was marked by peace, prosperity, and justice. People from distant villages and neighboring kingdoms would journey to his palace, seeking counsel and guidance, for stories of his fair judgments and kind heart had spread far and wide. King Aryan ruled from a grand palace, surrounded by lush gardens and shimmering lakes. Yet, despite the grandeur that surrounded him, he remained humble, always listening carefully to his subjects, treating the poorest farmer with the same respect as the richest merchant. He believed that a true leader must serve the people, and that every decision should be made with both intellect and empathy. One day, news reached the palace that two neighboring villages, both under his rule, were locked in a bitter dispute. The river that flowed between them had changed its course after a heavy monsoon, flooding the fields of one village while leaving the other's crops untouched. The villagers whose land was ruined demanded that the others share their harvest, but the fortunate villagers argued that nature had favored them and that they should not be forced to give up what was rightfully theirs. The conflict grew fiercer, dividing families and friends. Hearing of this unrest, King Aryan summoned the leaders of both villages to his court. They arrived carrying grievances and fears, hoping the king would tip the scales in their favor. King Aryan listened patiently as each leader spoke. He watched their faces, heard the tremor in their voices, and saw the anxiety in their eyes. When they finished, he sat in silence for a moment, gathering his thoughts. The court waited, breathless, for his judgment. "My friends," the king began, his voice calm and steady, "the river flows where it will. Sometimes it brings abundance, sometimes hardship. It is beyond our control. But what is within our control is how we respond. We are all children of this land, bound together by fate and fortune. If one suffers, all suffer. If one thrives, all thrive." He continued, "Let us not allow the river's change to divide us. Instead, let it be an opportunity to unite. The village spared by the flood will share a portion of its harvest with the other, not out of obligation, but out of kindness. In return, when times are good and the river blesses the other village, they too will share with their neighbors. In this way, you will build a bond stronger than the river, stronger than any misfortune." The villagers were moved by the king's words. Some were hesitant, clutching at their fears of scarcity, but many nodded in agreement, recognizing the wisdom in his proposal. The king did not command with force. He led with understanding, showing them that true prosperity comes not from hoarding wealth, but from sharing and supporting one another. The dispute resolved, the villages forged an alliance, and what began as an act of necessity blossomed into a tradition of generosity. Over the years, whenever hardship struck, the two villages stood together, their unity becoming a legend retold across the kingdom. King Aryan's reputation grew, but so did the challenges he faced. In his years on the throne, he was confronted with countless dilemmas. Rebellious nobles, famine, and even threats from neighboring kingdoms. But each time, his approach was the same. Listen deeply, consider all perspectives, and act with wisdom and compassion. One story from his reign stands out above all. Late one evening, a young woman arrived at the palace gates seeking justice. Her family's land had been seized by a powerful lord who claimed it was his by ancestral right. The woman, though poor and alone, was determined to plead her case before the king. King Aryan welcomed her into his court. He listened as she described her hardship, her voice trembling with emotion. The lord, summoned to the palace, presented records and witnesses, confident that his influence would secure victory. But the king did not rush to judgment. He called for the village elders and examined the records himself. He walked the land in question, speaking with those who lived nearby. After days of careful investigation, he discovered that the woman's family had tended the land for generations, their claim just as valid as the lord's. Instead of dividing the land in favor of wealth or power, King Aryan proposed a solution. He decreed that the land be shared, with both families working together. The lord, initially resistant, was reminded that his duty as a noble was to serve the people, not oppress them. The young woman, empowered by the king's fairness, became a leader in her community. Over time, the two families grew close, working side by side, and their story became a beacon of hope for others seeking justice. Through his actions, King Arion taught his people that leadership is not about dominance, but about service. Decisions must be made not for personal gain, but for the well-being of all. He showed that true strength lies in kindness, that compassion can resolve even the most stubborn disputes, and that wisdom is found in listening, learning, and adapting. As the years passed, King Arion's influence extended far beyond the borders of his kingdom. Travelers brought stories of his judgments to other lands, inspiring rulers and common folk alike. His legacy was not written on the walls of his palace or the gold in his treasury, but in the lives of the people he touched, the unity he fostered, and the justice he upheld. Generations later, parents would gather their children by the fireside and recount the tales of the wise king. They would tell of his humility, his fairness, his courage, and his unwavering commitment to the good of all. These stories became lessons in leadership, decision-making, and compassion. Whenever faced with a difficult choice, people would ask themselves, what would King Arion do? They remembered that true leaders listen before they speak, seek understanding before they judge, and never forget the importance of kindness. The story of King Arion reminds us that wisdom is not found in books alone, nor in the trappings of power, but in the daily practice of empathy, generosity, and justice. Each of us, in our own way, can be a wise leader, whether in our families, our communities, or our workplaces. We can strive to make decisions that unite rather than divide, to act with courage even when it's difficult, and to show compassion even to those who disagree with us. Let the tale of the wise king of India be a guiding light, inspiring us to lead with both heart and mind, to rise above conflict and selfishness, and to build a world where kindness and wisdom are the greatest treasures of all.